We're back again, and we're going to start out this morning with Richard Lake, and he's got a wonderful book to talk about. Richard, hi, I'm so glad to have you back.
Thank you, Carol. You've been well?
Oh, very good, very good.
All right. Well, I'm here again promoting my book,
Good.
9/11 2.0, Fool Me Once. And this is a political thriller. And the premise is, we all know that 9/11, the government had a hand in that. They had an agenda, then there was the big event, and then go to war in the Mideast, and we're still there. And so the premise of my story is, what if they did it again?
Oh, no, please.
What rights and freedoms would we lose next time?
I don't know.
You know.
Probably
Yeah.
all of the rest of them.
Well, a large part of my story, Carol, deals with the notion that you just can't believe everything you see and hear,
For sure.
particularly with the media. We all know that they put out that 9/11 was people wearing sandals halfway across the world, running around with these 50-year-old, rifles, were capable of orchestrating this fantastic thing that, demolition of buildings and airplanes into Pentagon and all that. And it's a lot of information on the internet disputing many of these points. Right?
That's for sure.
Right.
My theory on that was the bad guy over there who built those buildings, and I think they put a lot of stuff in the walls or stuff so it would just fall down instead of falling the normal way. It didn't do that. It just
Well,
fell down.
the buildings collapsed.
That's what I mean, collapse.
Yeah.
I knew that was a word out there.
It's all right. Just the way you'd see a controlled demolition. You've seen these videos, or they drop up in Las Vegas, a casino or something.
Yes.
Come straight on down. You don't want to hit other buildings or anything.
That's right. That's right.
The buildings were built to withstand multiple airline strikes.
Yeah, that's
multiple. And now, how do you cut down a tree? You cut a notch here, and then it falls that way. So if you damage the structure at a certain side, that weakens it, it should fall towards that side. So if it was capable of coming down with an airplane, hit it here, it'd fall that way. No, they fell straight on down. Controlled demolition. And there's more evidence of, again, the Pentagon and the Shanksville crash. Yeah. Suffice to say, could call it conspiracy theory. That's a handle that they want to put on people who question the narrative of the state. Okay, the one bullet with Kennedy. I mean, there's many of these. It's just a term they want to slap on people that question. All right.
sad.
Yes. Now, one thing we could discuss more. There's been a lot of gun violence in the country lately. All right.
Just lately?
Well,
Maybe more lately.
well, not when you and I were growing up. You could say, things like this weren't happening.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Now, not to say that. Well, there are bad people doing bad things, but there's a certain faction that wonders how much of this is a political ploy, okay, to take away a responsible citizen's constitutional right to defend himself and his family, okay? I mean, are they making spoons illegal because there's an epidemic of obesity? No, they're not.
Getting out. They'll get
Yeah.
there.
Okay, not to say that something shouldn't be done. Okay, I think we all agree maybe something should be done. But it's also true that, like the Nazis, famous case, took away the guns and then convinced their people that, you know, their neighbors were bad, and on and on and on, and the whole,
Oh,
we know the story on that.
Yes, for sure.
And so, yeah. And now, I'm not the big gun guy, you know, like to target shoot and everything. It's fun, you know. It's a guy thing, who knows. But they're really pushing the whole, the gun, the Second Amendment thing. And this is, I kind of give up the narrative of my story here. What happens if they did another 9/11, a big, huge event? What would we want to lose next time? What rights and freedoms? And we see them chipping away at this all the time.
That's for sure.
All the time. I wrote this other little thing. When you're getting wet inside your house, you don't pray it won't rain anymore. You fix the roof.
Good one. Good one.
Goes to show I think up these things and write them down. You know? Now, the wet in the above scenario is the mass shootings. Okay? The house is your safety and comfort. The rain is human nature, all right, or the stressed out extreme of it, barring legitimate mental illness. You can't, that's always going to be somehow there, you know. The roof is our society or our current economic situation, resulting from underemployment, offshore jobs, other people coming into this country taking jobs, you know, and a dysfunctional, repressive government. Okay, that's... So, and in conclusion, the roof in the developed world has been leaking for a long time. It's gotten moldy inside the building, and the ceiling's about to fall in. Now, that's an analogy of our society and some of the troubles within it. And it's not the mass shootings, barring staged events, and there's many people think some of these events are staged. The Walmart, people hearing different, you know, multiple shooters. In many cases, people attest to multiple shooters because they want to make a big story here. Some say that guy, he drove 600 miles. Okay, why would a guy drive 600 miles to go shoot a bunch of people? You know, and his looks have changed. You got a picture of him here, and a few other pictures. He looks different, and his clothes changed in photo. I mean, you know, how many people walk into a store, maybe do something, no matter illegal or not. A few minutes later, now they're dressed different. You know, I mean,
How'd they do that?
how they do all that?
Yeah.
Well, it's a media staged event. Not saying that. I can't say how much truth there really is into it, you know. But what I can say is this: the media attempts to mold our thinking, thoughts, and actions in voting, and there's lots of evidence of this. Here I have something out of our local paper, which is a cartoon they made, simply says evil, made out of guns. Okay, that's all fine. But why don't they make that obesity made out of spoons? I mean, this is a somewhat comical analogy, but you get the point, you know. Another one here, okay, again out of our local paper, is a cartoon showing, and I'll read it to you if you see it there. If we can zoom in, all right. I can't read it like this, but I'll read it and I'll show it again. Area 51 sent an alien spacecraft to the grassy knoll to alert Bigfoot to fake the moon landing and signal Amelia Earhart to tell the Clintons to eliminate Jeffrey Epstein. Now this, you know, they're throwing a good half a dozen conspiracy theories there to dissuade those that wonder if Epstein himself really killed himself in a suicide-proof cell. That's another. Here we have another example of all these little bits of information that the media puts out there. There's holes in the story. You know, this guy was about as connected as could be. Flew like presidents, Clinton, and to have allegedly not sex with underage girls and all. And he, I mean, who knows how far these connections and everything go?
Oh gosh.
All right, but people that question his demise, media wants to put out articles and cartoons throwing that in the whole category. Oh, Kennedy wasn't, the one bullet killed everybody there, and
Well,
I don't know. My book, Carol, touches on many of this, that the media is complacent in trying to formalize public opinion. It's called cultural engineering.
So what can we do?
Well, we can buy my book and we can read it.
Good for you.
And we can certainly be question what they, the state narrative. All right. If the little thing you wonder in your mind when you read something or hear something, and these days things pop up on your phone. All right. I mean, they're
Tell me.
boom. Oh, I have to check this. Now it has your attention. I mean, are they using subliminals to put things in your mind? Okay, which is a real thing, I mean, who knows? It's just.
Oh my gosh, you're a suspicious man.
I'm terribly.
Oh boy.
But it's Madison Avenue. Why do these people make millions of dollars? Because it works.
That's for sure.
Okay, it works.
That's for sure.
And so there's no suspicion there. This is just to be aware and.
That's the thing, So many of us, things happen to us because we're not aware. We're paying attention only to our little life, and we're not looking out.
A lot of that is by design. They keep us so busy and worried about money and this and that and running around and da-da-da. No, I don't have time to worry about this.
That's right.
Okay?
I thought that for a long time.
Yeah. And again, the 9/11 itself, September's just around the corner here, going to have an anniversary, was a major event that has siphoned trillions from our country that could go for many social programs, mental health if you want, or homelessness, or trillions of dollars taken out to the military-industrial complex, blowing holes in the sand across the other side of the world, with $1 million missiles. I'm not making it up, To what end? To what end?
To keep us broke.
Well, to make some people very rich. And
I don't think I'm on that list.
that's right. That's right.
Anyway, it's good to be aware. You have to be aware.
Yes. My book is on Amazon. It's for $14.99. There's also a Kindle version for $2.99. And it's an easy read. And it's about a guy trying to get medicine. Big Pharma's the bad guy. Big government is the bad guy.
Oh.
Guy trying to get medicine to save his wife.
That's cool.
And
that
so
sounds
it's
great.
just a regular story, but it touches on many of these concerns which we've mentioned today.
I think that's it. And this is Amazon? Is that where you get this?
Yes.
Any place else you can get it? You get something online?
Barnes & Noble, but I would
Noble?
direct people to Amazon. You can for sure. Barnes & Noble is in and out. But Amazon is always there.
Well, sometimes I want to talk to Amazon too.
Well, that's another. That's a whole other thing that we could, have a
story.
list. Right.
Anyway, I'm so glad you came in again.
Well, thank you, Carol.
Please come in again because I just love this. Your attitude toward life is that you look out and see what's happening.
Well, I encourage everyone to do it. Don't just buy the story they're telling you. Remember, they're telling you a certain story because they want you to think a certain way. All right? There's currently a movie on Netflix. It's called Red Sea Diving Resort. And it's about where they set up in the Red Sea a diving resort. But actually it was a Mossad operation to get Jewish people out of Africa, get from Somalia across to what's the little country on the, they're very,
I don't know.
okay, I forget now, but you know what it is.
Right.
It's a Netflix show, but okay, in my mind, watching it, there's a part where you feel bad for these refugees. These people they're terrible, and so you feel very bad for them. But then it made me think, it's just propaganda out of Hollywood, okay? Because we have a big thing about immigration now. We have, okay, I feel bad for these poor people. They just want to go somewhere else and be happy, da-da-da. We have a big political thing here about people coming to our border, and they're playing that same pull on your heartstrings, which is ultimately going to pull on your purse strings.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Much has changed.
And so and they do that, they make full movies that are propaganda. I know we got to wrap it up, but one more thing.
Go ahead. Go for the one
The
more
real
thing.
9/11, okay, just before that happened, a few months before that happened, Hollywood produced a movie called Pearl Harbor, all right? And if you look into the movie Pearl Harbor, I believe Ben Affleck was in it, major studio production. There's a lot of people say they kind of just threw it together, all right? In other words, like the planes were painted different than the real Japanese Zeros, okay? The way they used different boats for, the Pearl Harbor bombing. I mean, it wasn't historically accurate, and it wouldn't have taken much to do that. Now, Hollywood does cheat and do stuff like that, sure. But when you think it was maybe just thrown together, okay, all right. And then a couple months later, 3 or 4 months later, 9/11 happens. And then people say, oh, it's a new Pearl Harbor. Now, if you link those two, I mean, does it make a case that Hollywood, is that just coincidence?
No,
Or,
they want to get people to watch.
Yeah, they organize a mindset, I thought is implanted, and, and later they draw on that.
Okay. I'm gonna
All right, well,
I'm gonna draw on you coming back again.
Okay, thank you so much, Carol.
Okay, hon.
Thank you, all right.
We'll be right back.